Today I would like to share with you the magic that is the granny square. So to begin, form a slip stitch. I have 2 strands of crochet cotton, size 10. My crochet hook is size 3. Once you have formed your slip stitch, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now form a ring by inserting your hook into the first stitch that you formed in your chain and slip the yarn through both stitches to form a slip stitch. Now chain 3. The purpose for these first 3 chain stitches is to form what I call a riser. It takes the place of your first double crochet stitch. 1, 2. A little tip on this 3rd crochet stitch is that you are going to later need to insert your hook into it to make a slip stitch. So it's helpful to loosen it a little bit. And there's your 3rd stitch. Now you're going to form a double crochet into the ring that you have created. To make a double crochet, you place the yarn over the hook, you insert the hook into the center, and you have now 3 loops on your yarn. So you might wonder, why is this then called a double crochet? The reason it's called a double crochet, in my mind, is that you now are required to make 2 movements to form your stitch. So the first movement is through those first 2 loops, and your second movement is through the next 2 loops. Hence, double. Repeat over. So I'm kind of coming from the back to the front overhand. Insert the yarn, pull a loop through, and once more 2 movements. I kind of do that first movement in 2 steps, whereas the second movement goes a little smoother. So you have now created one of the sections that form the center of the granny square. At this point, you're going to chain 3. And now repeat 3 double crochets. That first chain 3 acted as one of the double crochets in your first set of 3. 1, 2, 3, followed by chain 3. And the chain 3 is providing you with your corners. You have now repeated the pattern twice and need to repeat it 2 more times. Double crochet 3 times. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 3rd section done. Moving on to the last. Something that is very helpful is I have been catching my yarn from the end of the chain into my stitches. I'm going to drop that. You don't need to carry it all the way through. 2 sections is probably sufficient. No harm in carrying it all the way through. 1, 2, 3, chain 3, and the 3rd stitch of that first riser, chain 3, is what I'm looking for. So 1, 2, 3, there it is. And because I made it loose, it's very easy now to go through. If you ever find that they are very tight, to get into, you can always use a smaller crochet hook to help you pull the yarn through, and then switch back. Don't forget to switch back to your regular size. So at this point, we can cut our yarn, pull that out all the way, and now it cannot unravel. And this one has been nicely trapped in my stitches, so I can cut it short and be done. Now, a really important point is to deal with all the thread ends as you go. You do not want to have created a stack of granny squares and then go back and deal with all the thread ends. It's very tedious. It's very easy to deal with them as you go along. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this thread through these 3 stitches so that it's extending here, and then when I crochet the next round, it will get caught further by the next color. Use any type of wide-eye needle. It can be sharp or blunt, it doesn't matter. Something I'd like to show you is when you create a slip stitch, the slip stitch actually takes the place of the stitch below it. So that's its proper position, not back here. If you're counting later, it importantly replaces the stitch below it. So when I weave in my yarn, I'm going to not weave it in here, but I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3. And that's all I'm going to weave it in. The yarn will get trapped by the next color. To thread the needle, it might be helpful to moisten it and flatten it. That time it just went through. But if you have difficulty, bit of moisture, and then bring them in line with each other and scrape them between your thumbnail and your finger, and that will like flatten them, and then be certain to insert them from the flattened angle. There we go. Now we're ready for our next color. Now we will add the second color. Choose a corner other than the corner where there is already an end. I'm going to start the corner before. That way, shortly, I will have worked in both ends. So to change colors, simply pull a loop of your new color through the corner. Take all the strands, the end plus the main strand, and pull them through. Here or shortly, give a little scrunch into the corner. Drop the thread ends, chain 3. 1, 2, and again, this third one, it's helpful if it's a little bit loose. 3. So the one that's loose is the third one. 1, 2, 3. Now double crochet 2 more to create a set of 3 that includes what I call the riser. Notice that I am trapping the thread ends under the stitches. You've already secured them by doubling the ends into the main strand, and now I'm securing them further. Complete a set of 3 double crochets, chain 3, complete a second set of 3 double crochets, and you have completed a corner. Now between your 2 corners, chain 1. So at the corners you chain 3 to form the corner, and in between sections you chain 1. Now when you're traveling along an edge, For example, the red, I'm going to call this traveling along the edge that is formed by the orange. In between each set of 3 double crochets, you're going to chain 1. So at the corner you chain 3, that's what forms the corner, and return to creating a set of 3 double crochets. Chain 3. We'll now do another set of 3 double crochets. This new corner is going to look a little bit different because it's going to have 2 sets of double crochet coming out of the corner, and that continues on through to the end. I'm going to repeat 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. And notice that I have been trapping this thread end under the new color. Chain 3 to form the corner. 1, 2, 3, double crochet 3, snug up that thread end, and crochet, chain 1, drop that set of thread ends. Now we're on our last corner, nothing new here. 3 double crochet, chain 3 because it's a corner, 3 double crochet, the cotton yarn is a little more difficult to work with than wool or acrylic because it has less elasticity. So if you're struggling a little bit, that's to be expected. All right, I've come to where I've begun, but it is still in between 2 sections, so I'm going to chain 1. And now I'm going to join the square with a slip stitch into the top of that first chain of 3. Slip, slip, and the 2 are joined together. Give that a trim. Pull it through. It can no longer unravel. Now you can turn it, and you have secured these 2 sets of thread ends, so they can now be trimmed short. And we're ready for our next color. Now, there is a right and wrong side to the double crochet. What I tend to notice is this little diagonal stitch followed by a smooth area. The wrong side just looks like kind of like the purl side of a knit. It's a bit rougher, right? So there we take a look again. Generally more smooth, and you see this diagonal yarn going across. So when we pick it up again, we're going to make sure that we're on the right side. The reason I thread this yarn and bring it to this point is because otherwise it would be floating across there with nothing to secure it, because we don't do any securing across that top edge. So I'll do that now. First, flatten your yarn. There we go. Again, I'm going to skip this one because that's the one that the slip stitch is replacing. And then I come across the back. It doesn't matter. This is just what I happen to do. And I pull the yarn through. And I'm going to leave it long because we're going to secure it further as we go. The third color is really just a repeat. Pull your yarn through, grasp the ends along with the main yarn, pull it through, pull them together through, drop the ends, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, then double crochet twice more to create what appears to be a set of 3 double crochets, even if the first double crochet is a little bit different. You're at a corner, so you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet 3. Continuing to catch those thread ends. I have a little knot there. I'm not going to worry about that. And here, where you're between sections, you're just going to chain 1, double crochet 3, chain 1. When you get to a corner, you're going to double up on that corner. You're going to have 2 sets of 3 double crochets. Here I have the thread end of the previous round, 2, 3, chain 3, double crochet into the same corner, so taking care of those thread ends as you go is an important technique, as I mentioned, because you don't want to have to deal with weaving all these thread ends in at the end. So changing colors in crochet is actually relatively simple. 3, fuzzy. Chain 1. When you travel along the side, you just chain 1. Move those thread ends out of the way. 3 double crochet into the ones along the edge, the ones that form an edge. 2, 3, chain 1. So I've double crocheted another set of 3, chain 3 to form the corner, double crochet one into the same corner, a second set of 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 1. So you're adding a set of double crochets with each row. Here I had 1. Now there are 2. Next row there's 3. And the next row there are 4, including the corners, mind you. Final row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. An increase of 1 section each time. I'm still not at the corner, so chain 1. And you predict what comes next. Correct. I'm going to chain 1 because I'm traveling along an edge. Double crochet 3. Actually, this kind of works. The color orange makes me think of these as segments, little orange segments. Because what do you call those little groupings of 3? They're a bit triangular. So segments is a good word. I'm still going to chain 1 because I still need to travel across to the next chain. And then here, I'm going to count up if I need to. That is not a chain. There's 1, 2, and there's the third one there. And sometimes I do this as a 2-step process, into the first side and then into the second side. And then, even though I made it a bit bigger, you can still so I'm pulling, give myself some tension to pull through. And because it's a slip stitch, I'm not single crocheting. I'm simply slipping it through the existing stitch little snip, pulling it through so it can't unravel. Turn. Make sure you cut the right one. Now I'm going to continue with this granny square where I've traveled around. Nothing changes. You just add a segment each time. And I have created 5 colors. So 5 rounds. I have now nearly completed the 5th and final round of the granny square. That said, go further if you like. I happen to choose 5. Sometimes with heavier yarn, I only do 4, but you could carry on and do more if you like. Whatever you decide your final round to be, there is a tip I would like to share. The next step will be to single crochet, in a sense, into these top loops in order to join the granny squares together. The looser these stitches are, the easier that will be. Here I am easing off on the chain stitches between sections. So chain 1, double crochet 3 times into the corners. These are just regular tension now, because the tops of the double crochets tend to be loose naturally, well, without any extra effort. Here we go. We're going to chain 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ease the tension off that stitch to make it looser. 1, 2, easing off each time. 3. Now double crocheting with regular tension again, the 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Back to my single chain, ease off. So I'm kind of easing off twice here. This is the stitch on the top of the double crochet. There's my chain, both are eased off. And you can see I'm talking really just like an extra millimeter. You don't want them very large and loopy, just less snug than typical. If you already have loose tension, then don't worry about this step, just carry on. Here I am in my last set of 3 double crochets. Ease off. Last is to create my slip stitch. There we go. What remains is to join the granny squares together, and I will show you a couple of ways of doing that.